Hello everyone, I'm coming to you today with an episode that's about taking that leap of faith and what it actually looks like and what it means. So I want to talk about my first experience with my first healer, which was Pontea. And I remember in that first session, she asked me to just imagine myself pulling energy from the earth. And me, typically, I'm a super cold person. Like I'm always cold. I'm always wearing coats. I always have sweaters on. Even I live in San Diego, and even that, I am always cold. So she had me just like center myself, and she said, I just want you to imagine pulling the energy from the earth. And she told me to imagine it like a color of a red rose, and pull it from deep within the earth into my body and just allow it to flow. And I'm not joking, within a few minutes, I think I was sweating. I was like so hot, and in my body felt so hot. And that was my first inclination that this stuff is this is like magic. This is real. This is not the things that I had experienced prior to this were people telling me, let's say if it was a tarot card reader or something like that, people using their gifts to tell me things about myself, but never had I experienced like letting go of what I think is normal and the reality to what actually can happen. And I remember coming home and being like, oh my God, Richard, listen to what happened. And I was like, I think there's something to this. And he comes from a science background. So we kind of, we had the talk about it. And he was like, I think it's a possibility. And so the point of why I'm bringing that story up is it was this leap of faith, of trusting the environment that I was in and trusting that there are things that exist beyond what we know, right? So if someone comes to me, actually someone came to me this week and asked me about walk-ins, and I'm now curious and I'm researching it, and it's like whenever there is an energy that comes to you, exploring it. If it feels like I don't know this, I don't know anything about this. In the case of the walk-ins, I did know something about it, but I didn't know enough to have the conversation with the person. So for me, it was like an opening to another leap, right? Another thing that, and I just got shivers, so I know that's the right thing. It's like an opening to the unknown is how we grow our consciousness, and not just our mind. Like we think about like studying different modalities or books or whatever, and that's for our mind to chew on something, but there are moments in our lives where you come into an experience where you have the choice of letting it, I don't want to say like letting it take over, but kind of like immersing yourself into the experience so that you can have the experience deep within your soul and deep within your body. So that's an example of that. So another thing is starting this podcast. It was like when Richard suggested doing it, absolutely not. I was like, no way do I want to share what I'm going through in this moment of my life, because all of it was new to me and all of it was super vulnerable. And I remember saying to him, like, what possibly do I have to teach or to say about it? Because I'm not an expert in any way. I'm literally on the path of figuring it out and learning as I go. And he said, that's the point, is that other people are exactly in that same place. And it's like sharing the tools and the teachers and the experiences and the leaps that you're taking. It's like the process, not the destination. And I thought about that, and I even think about that now, because a lot of spiritual minded people are coming on and sharing their wisdom from a place of already knowing. And I think what I strive to do is bring you along the journey, like understanding that I also am growing. I also am on this path at the same time, right? I mean, time doesn't exist, so I feel like we're doing it together. But literally, it feels like that's what was needed. This kind of like, I don't know, in the case of the podcast, like this virtual energy that is not someone talking to you, but someone saying, come with me and experience this. It's going to look different for everybody, but it's like this vibration of, I get where you are. I was there. I know that feeling. And I know that there's more that is available to us. It's just how do we like slowly take the steps to opening up our souls into this incarnation. So I remember when we were talking about, okay, I finally was like, I can't say no to a podcast if it's just my no is based solely in fear. And I knew, yeah, it was 100% fear. Okay, so then I remember at that time being like, okay, that can't be the reason. That cannot be the reason that I don't do this. So then it, came down to the like logistics of, how do you make a podcast? And we actually, when he came up with this idea, we were in Sedona and we were driving home and we spent the whole like 6 hours listening to a podcast about making a podcast. And it's like, it was, I'm going to say it was by the platform that I actually use, called Buzzsprout. And they have like some amazing tutorials on how to do this sort of thing, which obviously before that day, I had no idea. So that was very helpful for me because it broke it down into, I could do that step. I can do this step. It made it so less complicated, right? And then I remember getting home, I ordered a microphone, and our house is, it's pretty open. There's lots of windows. So the next thing was, how do I kind of soundproof my office? And so I spent some time doing that and getting like a rug, and like my point is there was a process. It didn't just happen. It was like in November that Richard had this idea, but it actually didn't. My first published, I think, episode was in March, of 2020. And the point is, like, I remember going through the process of me releasing the fear, and each step that I was taking in preparing to do a podcast was getting me closer to, okay, I can do this. I can do this. But of course, when you look at something from the like outside, it's like, oh, that's way too complicated. But I remember feeling like it is going to happen. I have the energy to move this forward. It almost like it needed its time for me to kind of wrap around it. But in the meantime, I kept following the steps to get there. So then, this last year has been amazing. And it's like taking that leap of who the heck knows what's going to happen opened me up to feeling the energy of you guys and knowing that it was exactly what needed to happen for me to gain even more confidence in this journey in myself. And I say that with 100% certainty. A lot of it was you guys taking the time to work with me so that I could practice what I was learning at the time and how to work with energy. But the majority of it is literally, I say this, but I really want you guys to feel it. I feel the energy. I feel supported, and that makes me able to come out of my comfort zone and continue to try to, when these like light bulbs or I guess guidances come in for the next sleep, I have the choice. I always go back to, okay, my first reaction is, but then I say, where is it coming from? Is it your intuition or is it fear? That for me is how exactly I break it down. And if it is like a no because it feels wrong, then I 100% follow my intuition. But I have to check into, is it fear that's making me feel this tenseness about it? And in these cases, almost 100% of the time, it's fear. because as you guys know, a lot of my fears are around being seen and being heard, and kind of stepping out from my introvertedness and my desire to, or kind of like this desire to protect myself, and energetically, I would say. So my experiences have been, it's the things that make us the most uncomfortable, that's where the magic lies, right? So in each person, that's going to be different. It looks like being seen for me. It looks like, sharing these ideas, having like these conversations is become much more comfortable, because now I feel like there's support there, versus like putting it out into this unknown vastness was, it's literally jumping off a cliff. But now I feel like on the other side of that cliff is the ocean, and in that ocean is you guys, and that's me knowing that I'm going to be caught. So my point is that when if someone brings something to you that your first thing is fear, understand that's your moment. That is the magic moment of, are you ready to grow? And I mean, that is a lot. So sometimes we're not ready to grow, right? And I've talked about how the flower essences have really helped me get beyond my limitations. I feel on an energetic level, because now that I feel like my vibration is out of the stickiness of the fear. Now when things come to me, or suggestions or whatever, I'm taking them for face value versus running it through my fear meter and saying like, does this feel safe, or am I absolutely a no to that? So I told you guys last week that I had that dream that really had me going into and figuring out what dreams are, and then sending healing energy to myself in those different parallel lives. And that night I had a meeting with someone who was a leader of a retreat that I did a few months ago. And it was just a chatty, call. But she reflected back to me that I need to grow. I mean, she was like, complimentary that I had pushed myself to where I had. But she said, you are meant to be seen. There is something about you that is meant to be seen, and I'm wanting to be that reflection for you. And let me just say this, it is not the first time someone has said that to me. But the people that have said that to me in the past were people that were closer to me in my life, like Richard, or my best friend, or my mom. And sometimes when people are too close to us, I mean, and this is in every area of life, we write them off. You're like, yeah, whatever. But when a total stranger reflects something to you, it's like, for how I felt it was like in black and white. There was no, because I don't know her, I can't be like, oh, that's just her interpretation of me, or that's like her pushing me, that's her trying to get me out of my comfort zone, that's what, whatever story I have when, let's say, Richard reflects something to me. I don't know, in that moment made me see it for what it is. And I knew, again, what is the reason that has kept me from doing this? And a lot of it is, I told you guys, I'm super introverted. I'm so afraid to be seen. Well, in the last months, I have started to create a website. I did a photo shoot, which I thought was going to be the most terrifying thing in the world, which in hindsight, now that I've done it, I found the right photographer, and my best friend was there to support the whole thing. And the result of the images are much greater than I could have ever imagined, because I think it was a collaboration of everyone, and the energy being the right timing, and me getting beyond the fear of what it was, right? What I thought it was. Because to me, taking a photo shoot of yourself is, hey, look at me. I want to be seen. And that is like not me. So on the other side of that, I can see it as a collaboration of energy to bring a message forward. And so this reflection from this person was, I see your next step as being putting your podcast on YouTube. And I remember right after the meeting with her, I went and I told Richard, and he was like, oh yeah, definitely. I think that's for sure, yeah, what you need to do. And I said, but do you really think that it's what's supposed to happen? Like, do you really see that for me? And he said, of course I do. I have for a long time. You just weren't ready to hear it. And then, of course, I had to go back and check myself. Are you afraid because you don't want to be seen? Are you afraid because of the labor or whatever that it's going to take to figure out how to do that? No, I mean, anything is possible. We can always figure anything out. And it came down to fear of being seen. Now, in saying that, today is my first chance, or first opportunity. I'm putting this podcast on YouTube, and I am sharing my energy with you guys in a visual. And if you're watching this on YouTube, now you see me. And I can now, it's been a week, right? So I don't have the equipment that is needed. I just am using my phone. I did buy lights because that was like a necessity, but I didn't, this time, in terms of how I told you guys I prepared to do a podcast, it took me months to get wrapped around and feel like, okay, I'm ready. This one it doesn't need to be perfect. And remember, I told you a few weeks ago, energy had said to me, things are going to come quick and you need to be on the ball and just do it. Don't get in your mind about it, because that slows the process down. So in this reflection of this girl telling me this, I mean, literally within a week, I'm now doing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I am not perfect, but I want you guys to feel that. And I think that, yes, my voice is helps in getting across these messages, but I can see that sharing in the visual of as I'm talking and me explaining or sharing the energies of what's happening is more powerful. I mean, I know this in myself. Like, there are people that I watch on YouTube for that kind of virtual experience, and I can see and appreciate that. So yes, I'm gonna share the link to this new YouTube channel below. And I hope you guys are interested in it and enjoy seeing me, instead of, like, I had been feeling like I was hiding behind the microphone. And then another thing I want to talk about this week, and this is exactly the same thing about this, taking these leaps. I told you guys that my mom had a fear that she was sharing with me around the COVID vaccine, and she was really worried because my initial response was, I don't see that for myself. I don't see myself getting a vaccine. And I had shared that with her, and I told her, like, it's something that I'm going to have to feel in for myself and feel if it feels right. But fear isn't going to make me go get the vaccine. Like, this fear of, I need to be protected, because I already know I'm protected. I can feel my own energy, and I know that. So then she sent me this text a few weeks ago, and it was all fear-based, and I didn't respond to it because I don't feel like it's a valid thing to respond to. It's if I respond to a fear energy, I'm just lowering my vibration to believe in that fear. So I didn't respond, and within a few days, like, it was right around that week, I got an email from the ARC Center of San Diego, which is where I volunteer, and I had volunteered for many years. And they serve people with disabilities. And I worked in their day program and just spent time with the clients that they had. And, over the last year, they've been closed. But I always had, like, the best time being with them, because if you have experience around people with disabilities, there's a purity to them And I say that in the sense that they're not caught up in the same dramas and chaos that we all are in this kind of rat race of a world. Life is much simpler for them. And in saying that, being in their energy always made me feel like an innocence and just a pure love that they're all sharing with me or with the situation. And so we would do, like, I used to do their nails all the time, or we'd play games or paint or just whatever, you know, they just having someone to hang out with. So that week that my mom sent that text, I got an email from them saying that they were doing a COVID vaccine clinic, and they were extending me a vaccine. Now, this is the funny thing about energy, right? I remember feeling like, of course, you know, I'm not looking for it, but it's coming for me. And my first reaction was, no, I don't believe in it. And why would I go and get a vaccine? And then I realized, where does that come from? It's come from these conspiracy theories that are out there that I have absorbed, that there's something wrong with the vaccine and that it potentially can harm us. And then I had to like really tune into, is that my belief? Is that what really resonates in my body? Or am I again, carrying that fear from but the completely opposite perspective? It's still fear regardless of which perspective you're in, right? So I meditated on it. I really felt into it. And the message that I got is, if you protect yourself in your own aura and your own light, nothing is going to affect you. And I was like, okay, so if this is the example of when things come into your life, it's because you're meant to evolve. So this was one of those opportunities of and evolving internally, right? The result of it, the vaccine, wasn't the lesson for me. The lesson for me is, can I stop in the moment and can I center myself in what is real for me? What feels right for me? I'm not going to listen to the fears of other people, because I don't believe that I am susceptible to even getting sick. Maybe I get COVID, but I don't believe that it's going to affect me and my energy. Now, could I be a carrier and get someone else sick that has a lower vibration? Of course, which that to me is something that I did think about, right? So it came down to, yes, it was a yes. So I said yes to the vaccine. I had my first dose earlier this week, and I went into it, and it's funny, I sat down and she had to leave the room to go get the vaccine, and as she left, I kind of just centered myself, and I imagined putting my 8th chakra around my body. And she came back and she said, "Are you afraid?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm just surrounding myself in my own light." And she said, "Oh, that's amazing. That's great." So then she gives me the shot. It's just like any other shot, nothing to talk about there. But then you have to go into this other room to sit for 15 minutes so they can make sure that you don't have a reaction. So I go into the next room, and in that room, there's maybe 6 or 7 people waiting for that 15 minutes. And the person that's facing my chair, I'm facing forward and there's someone facing my chair, and he is disabled, and he's having a conversation but instead of it being in his mind, he's saying it out loud. So first the conversation is about a video game, and he's talking about how he loves this video game. And then he starts talking about someone named Vanessa and how pretty she is and how nice she is, and she's a good person. And in all this while, I am, still sitting in my kind of meditative state, and I'm aware of him for sure, but I also am just, allowing it and being in the moment. And that goes on for about 10 minutes. And then I notice that he says something like, "You're hurting me. So this isn't making me feel good. I'm going to get in trouble. Why are you here? Leave me alone." And that pulled me right out of my kind of space. And I felt right away like, okay, I know that a lot of people that are that pure of body, heart, they're susceptible to energy, right? And my feeling in that moment was he's an open vessel to whatever thoughts are meant to, or that are in like the ether, right? And I had this feeling of, I'm just going to widen my aura and include him in it and see if I can help the situation. The moment that I had that like acknowledgement inside of me, he goes silent. And mind you, he had been talking nonstop the entire time for about 10 minutes. So then I just sat with it, and I imagine my aura growing and almost like putting a protective bubble around both of us. And the rest of the time that I was there, he just sat in silence and was calm. And I realized that the purpose of me having and getting the vaccine wasn't about the vaccine. It was for me to see myself by getting past my fears about it. Because, yeah, like I said, I was coming from a place of fear, not wanting to get the vaccine. It's an illusion. It's all an illusion. What was meant to come through is on the other side of that was a part of me that now I know I can change someone's energy with not even doing the tools that I know how to do. I can just think it and it changes it, right? And I believe that him being in that place at that time and having such pure energy was the exact lesson for me. But would I have gotten there without the leap of faith of knowing myself and getting back into my body of what feels right for me regarding getting this vaccine? So the point of me sharing this is that every day we're confronted or shown different sides of ourselves that we can recoil in fear, or we can look at it as an opportunity to grow to a different level of you. And all of my experiences of these leaps of faith have shown me another facet of myself that is so much more stronger and clear and like more embodied than I was on the other side of that, right? So it's all beautiful. It's all like the embrace or the being held on the other side of the fear is so intense that, you know, I wish I could put it into better words, but it is something of, it makes me feel like this is why we're here. And the universe shows us these things and signs every day. But are we ready to meet them? That's the question, right? And my point of this episode is really just to say, when something comes into your life, no matter through who or how, if you have a reaction in any way, there is a lesson there, and it's feeling into what the lesson is. And can you get out of your head enough to embrace whatever it is that you are fearful of, right? For me is the being seen. Well, here I am. I plan to do this now every week. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm open to it. I feel like the blocks, the things, the fears aren't there anymore, because what am I hiding? There's nothing to hide. Like if I can like get a vaccine of something that I don't think I need, and literally that I had the vaccine, I think 4 days ago, not one side effect. Richard had his a few weeks ago and he had side effects. But yeah, for me, nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. And again, if you decide to go down that path, just imagine yourself in your own energy, in your own aura, and literally just go like this and open your 8th chakra over your whole being and sit in your own energy and bring love in that moment. That is the way to get beyond the fear of what COVID is for this community, this collective. You can be kicking and screaming about it and fearful, or you can embrace everything for what it is and take it in on the frequency that you want to take it in. And that is the gift, right? That's the gift of this leap. And I wish it for all of you, because I know that on the other side of it is where magic is.